Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Shri Radha Govinda Dev Ki Jai. Welcome. I am Acyuta Gopi, and today we have a special story time. We'll be listening to the glories of Papamocani Ekadashi, the glories of the Ekadashi, which falls just today, depending upon when you're listening. But these glories remain ever fresh and ever new. So we'll be reading from the Ekadashi book, from the Garga Samhita, compiled by His Holiness Danavir Maharaj. And there'll be links in the description below where you can find this book available online and where you can purchase it for yourself. So we've read from this Ekadashi book, this section of Garga Samhita, many times before, but I thought, what better way to inaugurate this Ekadashi? Even though this video isn't live, we'll still get the benefits of being together and having the opportunity of celebrating this wonderful day known as Ekadashi. The Bhavishya Uttara Purana describes the story of Medavi as follows. Once Maharaj Yudhishthira asked Lord Krishna, "My dear Lord Krishna, you have already explained the glories of Papamocani Ekadashi. Now please describe the Ekadashi which occurs during the waning moon in the month of March-April. What is the name of this Ekadashi? Also describe to me the procedure for observing this Ekadashi and its results." Lord Krishna replied, "O best of kings, the name of this Ekadashi is Papamocani. Now please hear its glories as I describe to you. Long, long ago, the glories of this Ekadashi was spoken by the sage Lomas to King Mandata. This Papamocani Ekadashi occurs during the waning moon in the month of March-April. This Ekadashi takes away all one's sinful reactions, destroys one's ghostly condition of life, and awards one 8 kinds of mystic perfections." Sage Lomasa said, "In the ancient time, Kuvera, the treasurer of the demigods, had a beautiful forest of flowers called Kshetrarat, where the weather was pleasant as a result of ever-blossoming spring. The heavenly dancing girls, such as Gandharvas and Kinnaras, enjoyed various sports there. Demigods headed by Indra used to come there and enjoyed various exchanges. In that forest, a great sage named Medavi, who was a staunch devotee of Lord Shiva, was engaged in performing austerity. The Apsaras, or the heavenly dancing girls, tried to disturb the sage in various ways. Among the Apsaras, one famous Apsara named Manjughosha devised a means to captivate the mind of the sage. Due to the fear of the sage, Manjughosha built a cottage a little away from the ashram and began to sing in a sweet voice, accompanied with the musical instrument, the veena. On seeing Manjughosha, who applied sandalwood pulp on her body, wore a fragrant flower garland, and was engaged in singing sweetly, even the Cupid, who is an enemy of Lord Shiva, tried to conquer the sage, who was the devotee of Lord Shiva. Since Lord Shiva burnt the Cupid to ashes, therefore remembering his previous enmity, Cupid, in order to take revenge, entered into the body of the sage. At that time, Sage Medavi, who wore a white sacred thread on his body and lived in the ashram of Javana Rishi, appeared as a second Cupid. The lusty Manjughosha slowly came before the sage. The sage Medavi also became overwhelmed by lust and forgot his worshipable Lord. He gave up the practice of devotional service and became so much intoxicated in relishing the association of the woman that he even lost the sense of discriminating between day and night. In this way, Sage Medavi spent many years in enjoying lusty activities. Thereafter, when Manju Ghosh saw that the sage had fallen down from his position, she decided to return to the heavenly planet. She said to Sage Medavi, who was engaged in conjugal affairs, "O great sage, now please give me permission so that I can return home." Then Sage Medavi replied, "O beautiful woman, you have come to me only in the evening. Stay here tonight and you can return in the morning." On hearing these words of the sage, Manju Gosha became afraid and continued to live with him for a few more years. In this way, although Manju Gosha lived with the sage for 57 years, 9 months, and 3 days, it appeared to be only half of a night to the sage. Then Manju Gosha again asked for permission from the sage to return home, but the sage said, "O beautiful one, please hear my words. This is only morning. Please wait till I finish my morning rituals." Then the Apsara smiled and said to the sage with amazement, "O great sage, how long will it take to complete your morning rituals? Has it not finished yet? You have spent many years in enjoying my association. Therefore, please consider the actual value of time." On hearing the words of the Apsara, the sage came to his senses, and after carefully calculating time, he said, "Alas, O beautiful one, I have simply wasted 57 long years of my valuable time. You have ruined everything and spoiled all of my austerities." The eyes of the sage filled with tears, and his entire body began to tremble. Sage Medavi then cursed Manju Gosha, using the following words: "You have behaved with me like a witch, therefore you will immediately become a witch. O sinful, unchaste lady, shame on you." After being cursed by the sage in this way, Manju Gosha humbly said to the sage, "O best of Brahmins, please withdraw your heavy curse. I have spent many years in your company. O my lord, for this reason I am a fit candidate for your forgiveness. Please be merciful unto me." The sage replied, "O gentle lady, what will I do now? You have destroyed my entire wealth of austerity. Still, I am telling you the procedure from getting freed from this curse. The Ekadashi, which occurs during the waning moon in the month of March-April, which is called Papamocani, is capable of destroying all one's sinful reactions. If you follow this Ekadashi strictly and faithfully, then your ghostly condition of life will be vanquished." After speaking these words, Sage Medavi returned to the ashram of his father, Sage Javana. As soon as Sage Javan saw his fallen son, he became extremely unhappy and said, "Alas, alas! Oh, my son, what have you done? You have ruined yourself. You should not have spoiled your entire treasure of austerity simply being captivated by an ordinary lady." Sage Medavi replied, "O respected father, due to misfortune, I have committed great sins in the association of an Apsara. Therefore, please instruct me regarding the atonement of my sinful reactions." On hearing the pathetic words of his repentant son, Sage Javan said, "O my son, by observing Papamocani Ekadashi, which falls during the waning moon in the month of March-April, all one's sinful reactions are completely destroyed. Therefore, you should observe this Ekadashi." On hearing these kind words of his father, Sage Medavi exhibited special enthusiasm in observing this Ekadashi. By the influence of this Ekadashi, all the sinful reactions of Sage Medavi were destroyed, and he became very pious. Meanwhile, Manju Gosha also observed this auspicious Papamocani Ekadashi and became liberated from the ghostly condition of her life. She then regained her divine form and returned to heaven. After narrating this story to King Mandata, Sage Lomasa concluded as follows: "My dear king, Just by observing this Papamocani Ekadashi, all one's sinful reactions are automatically destroyed. Even just by hearing or reading the glories of this Ekadashi, one achieves the result of donating 1,000 cows. By observing this Ekadashi, all kinds of sinful reactions resulting from killing a Brahman, killing an embryo, drinking wine, and associating with one's guru's wife are totally uprooted. The purport is that since this sacred Ekadashi is all auspicious and is the destroyer of all sins, everyone should strictly observe this Ekadashi. It was in this way that Sri Krishna described the glories of Papamocani Ekadashi to Yudhishthira Maharaj. And he enthusiastically advised the Emperor Yudhishthira to observe not only this Ekadashi, but all such Ekadashi days which come just for our benefit. We can see the mercy and the loving affection of Sri Krishna through the appearance of such auspicious days. These days come upon our lives. They can help us physically. They can give benefits to our health. But more importantly, they are here in order to reverse all of the karmic reactions of which we are always so afraid. So if you find yourself worried about previous activities or future activities, thinking, what can I do in order to mitigate the karmic reactions that I may have committed, either knowingly or unknowingly, right? What can I do in order to balance out all of the possible negative karmic reactions? These Ekadashi days have come into our lives. Ekadashi Devi has appeared just to benedict us, just to give us all benefit, just to show us how affectionate our supreme most best friend is. This is the mercy of Krishna. He gives us these days as a gift. Let us take full advantage of this gift and engage our minds and hearts in hearing and chanting the glories of our supreme most best friend. All glories to Lord Govinda Dev, who is the benefactor and the well-wisher of all of his devotees. He could be known as anything, but he loves to be known most as Bhakta Vatsala, as the well-wisher, as the one who protects and maintains his devotees at all costs. All glories to Govinda, who gives pleasure to the senses, who gives protection to the heart, who is always doing the best for us. But most of all glories to Govinda, who is our dearest friend. I'm wishing you all a blissful and blessed Papamocani Ekadashi. I hope that you engage in hearing and chanting to your heart's content. And I hope and pray that you see Govinda's miracles pop up in your life as a direct result of taking advantage of this most special day of Ekadashi, the dearest day of Lord Hari.